Hey everybody, this is Justin with SUPboardGuide.com, and today I'm very excited to be reviewing the iROCKER Cruiser Ultra inflatable stand-up paddleboard. It's one of iROCKER's latest releases as part of their Ultra series, and it's a little bit different than the iROCKER original Cruiser. We're going to be diving into all of those details, but bottom line, it's a fantastic board. It's faster, it's lighter, and it's stiffer than the original series, so we're really excited. Let's dive right in. Okay, so first thing we want to do in this review is I'm going to show you everything that's included in the kit. So everything I'm going to be showing you comes included when you order the iROCKER Cruiser Ultra. First thing you're going to notice, this backpack. Very compact, very comfortable. 10 out of 10, we love this backpack. Now, as we open it up, here we go. So I'm just going to open this up, and as I open it up, I'm just going to try to show you as best as I can what's included so you get a really good idea. One thing that I'm going to notice really quick I've got here is iROCKER's pump. That is not included in the kit, but I'm going to use it in a second, and frankly, anybody buying this board, go buy that battery. It's awesome. So when you open it up, one thing you'll notice, it's a roll top bag. So you can actually, this is what it packs down to with just what's inside the kit, but you can actually put a few more things in it, which is really cool. Velcro up top. And then as you open it up, I'll do this kind of standing up, see if you can see it here. Zips down and then just opens like this. Now you're gonna see here how crazy compact this is and what iROCKER's done. So in the kit, they have what they call their accessory pouch. And this seems kind of like obvious, but really it's kind of a game changer and just makes it so much easier for everything. I'll get into that in a second, what's included. You have the compact board. As you can see, this thing is light, it's easy to carry and folds up incredibly small. Huge fans of what they've done here. And then the last thing in the bag, you get their paddle. So their paddle is a 5-piece paddle, and they've made it 5 pieces so everything can fit into the bag. And so that is everything that is included in this kit. Very simple, very easy, very compact, and really makes this a fantastic adventure board. Okay, so in the accessory pouch here, as you open it up, what you see in it is, well actually first before I open it up, this front zipper pouch is where you store iROCKER's fins. So you get these two kind of crazy looking fins, right? And we'll go into that later. That goes in the front pouch. I love having a spot for fins. And then inside this, you have a really cool, again, one of the things that I think is a game changer is that iROCKER is including their really nice, high quality electric pump in the kit. So for any of you who have pumped up an inflatable paddleboard by a pump, I've done it 100,000 times. I never do anything other than the electric pump, so I love that they're including this. Again, it does not come with the battery, just want to be very clear, and yes, you want to get that. So there's the pump, there's your standard leash, and then they have the repair kit. So all of that fits nicely inside this accessory pouch. And again, as you can see, iROCKER's really gone a long way to think through how to make this compact and just very easy to carry on whatever adventure you want to go to. It's kind of a newer concept. They call it the Ultra line. To be honest, I kind of think this is going to be where, at least I hope, where all inflatables are going to in the future. That being said, now I'm going to unroll the paddleboard and show you what it's like to pump this up. If you're already very familiar with inflatables, you can just kind of skip to the next section, but I do want to show you how much easier it is to pump it up with the electric pump. Okay, so let's unroll this thing and show you how it works. As I unroll it, the thing you really want to pay attention to, again, is how compact and small this is. So how they made it so compact is they made it to where you can fold it in half. That's why you have the twin fin instead of the tri-fin setup on these, right? So we're gonna roll it here, and we'll pump this up, and then we'll dive into all the details. So now we're going to dive into some of the key specs and features of the Cruiser Ultra board. And so first, it is just like the original Cruiser in that it's 10.6 by 33 by 6 inches thick. Now, that being said, as we've measured and taken these out, all the Ultra line boards tend to be just a little bit thinner than the original series. We'll get into that, how that affects the performance, but just know it's about 10.6 by 33 by 6. The other key difference that they've made, and this is where the weight has been dropped, is they've moved from a linear drop stitch to a woven drop stitch. And so that basically makes it to where the drop stitch is more of an X pattern, and it allows them to use less material and cut weight on this board. This board is only 21 pounds versus 25 for the previous Cruiser, which is a really big deal, both when you're carrying it around and when you're out on the water. So we really love that. iROCKER did keep the triple layer composite PVC, and so you still get the same durability, the same feel, and all of those things put together really do make it a very firm, nice feeling stand-up paddleboard. So now features. You're gonna notice iROCKER always loads their boards up with a ton of features. They actually cut back just a little bit on the Ultra series. Again, that cuts weight. And to be honest, I don't think you lose any functionality with what they did. The main thing, this one, there's 15 D-rings. The old Cruiser had 21 D-rings, but 15's plenty. I've actually never used all 21, so I think that was a good move by iROCKER. You still have your 2 bungee areas. The rear bungee area is only 4 D-rings now instead of 6. And you can see they kind of had to do that because in the back here, you have this action mount, right? So they went to 3 action mounts instead of 4, put 1 right here, and then the inflation valve. They had to offset that on the center because the board folds in half. And so you can't put this back to where it normally was, hence why they went, at least what I think, is they went to the 4 D-ring setup here, offset inflation valve, and then put this action mount here. To be honest, I would actually like to see them move this action mount up here, and then they could get rid of that, cut a little bit more weight would be my one recommendation. On the tail here, you still have a nice grab handle. So you have the 3 grab handles here, the tail, the center, and then up front here. And a thing to notice on the front, it's on the front side of the board. Again, I think they did that so it folds a little better. Our initial concern was that it was gonna kind of end up pushing water a little bit, but the rocker line on this has been was done really well. And I haven't had any issues yet with that handle being here instead of up here. I also do think, personally, it looks a little better with not having the handle here, but we'll update our review if I do find that this impacts performance. So the other areas that you'll notice have changed is the deck pad's a lot different. The old Cruiser deck pad wasn't full length because it didn't go all the way to the nose, but it did go all the way to the tail. So they cut that off and they went to a split deck pad, again, so it can fold. And I think that the distance between is fantastic. I haven't had any issues. I think it's great. I also like the look, how they put the little iROCKER there. Same quality EVA deck pad with the little logo stamp on there. It has the lines as well to kind of help push water off. Really comfortable, grippy. I have always liked the iROCKER deck pads a lot. The one thing I do wish that they would do for a future Cruiser board, because a lot of people like the Cruiser for yoga and for, you know, putting a dog or something on it. I'd like it if they could find a way to extend this deck pad back to where they had and put a kick pad on this. Now, easy for me to say, I'm not the engineer, I'm just the reviewer. And there's a lot of things going in this to make it compact and portable. And that is just kind of the thing that they had to sacrifice on that. But in future models, if they could do that, that would be our recommendation if it is possible. And so, again, looking at the board, it's just a really good, solid board, tons of accessories. And one thing I almost forgot, a big thing that they improved was on these bungees. A lot of times the rear bungee, if I'm not carrying too much stuff, I like to take it off. But other ones you had to completely take off and you couldn't put it back on. These they did make fully removable. And so unlike, there's been some removable ones that I've seen in the industry where you can unclip it, but it doesn't fit through the D-ring. This, you can completely take it off. If you don't want it. And so I do like to move on the board a lot. And so I do like to be able to take this off. Love the fact that they did that. And just in general, from all the features, all the accessories on the cruiser board, I really do think iROCKER did a fantastic job. All right, so now we're gonna dive into the performance section of the cruiser review. And from a performance standpoint, there's gonna be two things that kind of stand out throughout this. Number one is the weight. Again, you can see how easy this is to lift up, to hold, to carry in and out, and it really does impact the performance throughout all of our testing. The other thing are these fins. So the fins that iROCKER has developed, let's see if I can get this board set down here. The fins that iROCKER has developed specifically for the Ultra series are these long, skinny, kind of raked out 9-inch fins. You'll notice the base is thinner than your standard center fin, and they've done that, I think, possibly in order to cut weight. So they basically just have the two side fin boxes, and they are the standard side fin boxes that you get with the other iROCKER original lineup. And so you can use those smaller side fins if you want, if you're going into a river or whatever. So basically you just have two fin options. You got these longer 9-inch fins and the side fins that you can add on to it. I do think that iROCKER in the future is probably going to develop some additional fins that you can use. Maybe some gummy fins for rivers would be nice. But right now, I got to tell you, I've been very impressed with how these fins perform, and we'll dive into that a little bit more when we get out there. But to lock them in, that's the other area where iROCKER really has kind of come up with a newer system where they have, as you see when I put them in here, there is a string, this locking mechanism attached to a string, and that basically just secures it so you never lose your fin. So if you hit a rock really hard, a fin might break, might pop out, but it's still going to be attached to it. And so, I mean, I've never lost a fin from iROCKER before, but that's just a nice little security mechanism because I have heard of other people that do lose that. I want to do a whole section on this paddle for you. The reason being is that iROCKER really had to spend some time and effort into designing a paddle that will break down and fit into that ultra compact bag. And so that's what they've done. It's a 5-piece paddle, and it really does fit really nice into that. That being said, there's a few things that, you know, a little bit of a drawback that you have to deal with. And again, for me, it's worth it. If I want to take this to Hawaii or up to the mountains and backpack with it, well worth it. But because there's 5 sections, there is a little bit of wiggle in the paddle. I don't notice it a ton while I'm paddling, but it is there. I'd like to see them find a way to kind of clamp that down a little more tightly. It's going to be a challenge given what they're doing with the 5 pieces. The other thing that you want to know is the heights on the paddle. It doesn't go quite as low or short as the previous version. The previous version went down to 72 inches. This one only goes to 76 3/4. And that's because of a little locking, this locking mechanism has a little wire that when you insert this down, it only goes to this pin here. It doesn't, you can't put it all the way down to those top 2 pins. It just won't go down far enough. And so if you're 5 foot and below, 5'2" and below, that might make this a little bit longer than what you're used to. But again, it's for me and for Allie even, right? She's 5'2", it's an inch or two taller than what she would like when she's sprinting, but when she's just casually paddling, it's totally fine. And so I definitely wouldn't say, no, don't buy this board if you're 5 feet tall because of the paddle. I still think the portability of the paddle is more than makes up for that. It's a carbon fiber composite paddle, just like the previous original paddle, has good, good firm feel. I really like, personally, the shape. Allie's not as big of a fan of the scoop, but for me, it just has always done really well in the testing, and I personally really do like the shape of the blade. It's a nylon blade, very lightweight. The handle feels very comfortable, and in general, it is one of my favorite kit paddles that you can buy. Given the fact that this breaks into 5 pieces and fits into that tiny bag, very big fan. When we're reviewing performance on inflatable SUPs, one of the first things that we do look at is stability. The reason why we do that is if you can't stand, you're not going to have fun. It's one of my biggest complaints that I have with some of these really cheap, what we call Amazon boards, is their stability just sucks, and that means your experience is just going to not be fun. So again, that's why we look at this first. So how does the Cruiser Ultra do in terms of stability? Short answer, it did really well. It was the best performing in terms of stability out of all the new Ultra lineup. That's the iROCKER Ultras and even the Blackfin CX. I would say it's just a little bit more stable. We even so the weight capacity of this board is 300 pounds. And so what we did, we put 3 water sacks, each about 40 pounds. When you combine that with my weight, that puts us right about that 300-pound weight limit. And this board definitely held my weight, still performed fairly well. And in terms of how that impacted stability, it did impact it a little bit, but not as much as what I expected. So where it impacted me the most was in what I would call the first level stability. And that's just kind of where you start going side by side. The Cruiser Ultra is really good at that. It does not feel tippy when you get on it. So if you're a beginner, this is a really good board. Second level stability, as you really push down, and I'm not gonna go crazy so I don't, fall in or get my mic wet. iROCKERs have always done a really good job there, and this keeps with that trend. Really good stability throughout. And again, being just a little wider than the other iROCKER Ultras, this is the best one when it does come to stability. The other area of stability that we do look at is what does it feel like as you're moving around on the board, right? As you progress, as you advance, you're gonna wanna move around on the board. And kind of the most extreme example would be that step back turn. And the Cruiser does really good. No, it doesn't have a deck pad back there, but as you can see, as I step back, that tail is nice and wide. And so it is easy just to casually step back, turn the board, and again, with a little bit of practice, you're not gonna be too nervous about falling in. So again, stability-wise, fantastic board. From a maneuverability standpoint, we were very intrigued going into this review and our testing to see how the Cruiser Ultra would do. And basically what we found is it kind of depends a little bit on you and on your weight. As far as how it compares, I'll kind of give you like the bottom line summary, is against the other Ultra series. So that's the iROCKER 10 and 11 Ultras and the Blackfin Ultra CX. The most maneuverable boards were the iROCKER 10 and the Blackfin CX. That's to be expected. What we were a little surprised on was how the Cruiser ended up actually being more maneuverable than the 11-foot all-around Ultra. Very surprising, and almost kind of put it into a category with I'd almost put the Cruiser Ultra into an all-around category, which for me is a big plus because you already have the stability and now you have a little bit more maneuverability with it. When I'm comparing it to the iROCKER Cruiser Original, right? So that's the non-compact version. I personally found the Ultra to be slightly less maneuverable. If I'm doing a big forward sweep and trying to go around 360 degrees, or if I'm doing a rear sweep trying to do the same, it kind of ended up taking about an extra quarter to half stroke to get it around. So definitely not much, but the board still felt a little lighter. So it kind of feels a little more maneuverable, but I think those two big center twin fins just kind of grab the water a lot and reduce it just a little bit. Now, that being said, Allie, who is about 40 to 50 pounds lighter than me, she actually found that she was more maneuverable on the Ultra versus the original, which makes a lot of sense given that it's only 21 pounds versus the 25. And so for her, she much preferred the feel when it comes to maneuverability of the Ultra. And in general, I would say it's a fantastic board when it does come to maneuverability overall. From a speed and tracking standpoint, that is the area that I would say the Cruiser Ultra improved the most over the original Cruiser. Those two twin fins just really do a great job tracking, and how the lighter weight just really does help with speed. And so from a performance standpoint with the tracking and the speed, definite upgrade going from the original Cruiser to the Cruiser Ultra. How it compares against the other Ultras is kind of more along the lines of what you would expect, right? There's a little more of a cruiser shape, a little wider, a little bit shorter than like the 10-foot, the 11-foot all-around, a little wider than the 10-foot all-around. And it is just a little bit slower than the 10-foot, the 11-foot, and the Blackfin CX. For me, on our sprint test, which is about a minute long, it was like 1 or 2 seconds slower is all. Again, versus the other Ultras. For Allie, that difference was pronounced a little bit more, and she was about 3 or 4 seconds slower on the Cruiser versus the 10-foot and the 11-foot all around and the Blackfin CX. So again, kind of right in line with what we would expect from a performance standpoint, but just generally stepping back and looking at the performance just overall from the Cruiser Ultra, I was very impressed with the tracking. I mean, really, I can go quite a ways just on one side without having to switch. It's not like every 4 or 5 paddles. So even though it's a little bit wider, I'm still able to really get good solid tracking. Again, I attribute that to the fin setup. And then the speed, you know, even though for me it was just marginally better than the original Cruiser, it feels faster because of its lightweight. So definitely very impressed with what iROCKER has done in terms of speed and in terms of tracking. Okay, from a tracking and a speed standpoint, the Cruiser Ultra really hit it out of the park. It's one of the biggest improvements that iROCKER has made and one of the biggest differences you're gonna see on a board as you go from the original series to the Ultra series. Going from 24 to 21 pounds just really knocked off that weight that just really did improve the speed of the Cruiser. So how did that compare? So for me, against the original series, the Ultra was consistently just a little bit faster, but it felt even faster, just felt lighter, just felt a little more playful and fun. For Allie, the speed difference was actually even more, which makes sense, right? She's 40 to 50 pounds lighter than me. And so for her dropping that weight, improved this board over about a minute, you know, our sprint test, she knocked off about 4 seconds of time going to the Cruiser Ultra versus the original. So definitely an upgrade on speed. Great job there, iROCKER. How does this compare against the other Ultra series, right? As you would expect, it's the Cruiser. So it's not gonna be the fastest out of the Ultra. So the 10, the 11, and the Blackfin CX were faster. What did surprise me was how the Cruiser actually kept up. For me, it was really just like a 1 to 2 second difference over that time, over that 1 minute sprint. For Allie, it was, you know, 3 to 4 seconds, but that is better than what I would have expected and better than the original series as well. So again, it did a really good job on the speed. And part of the reason why I think the speed is better is because there's been an improvement in tracking. Going to that twin fin setup, those long 9-inch twin fins, I mean, you really can paddle on one side. For me, it was about 3 to 5 more strokes than the original series, and just did make it a lot easier. So I didn't have to switch sides as much. I went straighter, which obviously impacts speed, but it also kind of improves what I would call the mental performance. When you're out there, it just feels a little more fun. You don't have to focus quite as much on your stroke. So even though it's a little wider than the other Ultra series, it still wasn't hard to reach over and keep my paddles straight. Part of that, to be honest, is because I when we get our final measurements done, I really want to see where this lines up. I have a feeling it's going to be about a ½ inch to an inch thinner than the previous year's Cruiser, which again would improve speed and would improve tracking. So overall, from that standpoint, A+ on the Cruiser Ultra.